Menopausal and perimenopausal women, listen up. It's time to take control of your health and comfort, and Winona is here to help. Winona is a telemedicine company for menopause care who believes that your symptoms are real, important, and deserve to be taken seriously. And for many women, this starts with hormone replacement therapy. Winona's HRT is made with plant-based, bioidentical hormones rather than synthetic ones, so it better aligns with your body to offer relief from hot flashes, weight gain, and other uncomfortable symptoms. 80% of women who use Winona find relief within just 90 days. So, what are you waiting for? Get started today. Visit buywinona.com today to start your free visit. With free shipping and the ability to pause or cancel at any time, your path to wellness has zero obligations. Use code SPRING24 at buywinona.com for 25% off your first treatment plan. That's BYWINONA.com for 25% off. Winona, menopause care made easy. Summer is the season of hot temperatures, outdoor adventures, and refreshing water activities. Summer is also the season of rough on your feet, causing dry, cracked heels and toes. Introducing Babyfoot, the original exfoliation foot peel that contains 16 natural extracts formulated to remove dead skin cells in 3 easy steps. Apply the booties, relax for an hour, then wash your feet. In 14 days, you've got baby smooth skin and your feet have never been softer. Letting dead skin cells build up over time is hazardous to your foot health. Our professional-grade DIY products, like our original exfoliation foot peel, our men's foot peel, or our moisturizing mask, are some of the best foot care products on the market, created with your foot health in mind. Pamper yourself with a spa day from the comfort and convenience of your own home with Babyfoot. If you want a chemical-free, easy-to-use exfoliating process from the company that created the original foot peel, it's time to treat yourself to Babyfoot. Go to babyfoot.com and use the code SUMMERFEET24 and get 20% off your first order with Babyfoot. That's babyfoot.com and use the code SUMMERFEET24.
Hello and welcome to Too Stupid to Live, a podcast that reviews romance novels $5 and under. And I'm sure you can tell that I am a sweltering right now. And not because LA is in the midst of another heat wave, no. It's because this is a special episode of Hot as Hell with TSTL, where I chat with sexy and sizzling people in the world of romance novels. And I am very excited about today's guest, Erin Spencer. She is an audiobook narrator and founder of One Night Stand Studios, a boutique production company that produces audiobooks for indie authors, especially for a lot of romance authors. So if you're into audiobooks of romance novels, she is definitely the person who, she knows what your ears want to hear. Erin is also a writer who co-wrote the romance novel The Yes Factor, and she is out now with a new novel that is about a love story called More With You, which is doing so well on Amazon right now. Like one of the reviewers said, it is unforgettable. I found More With You profoundly beautiful. It's daring. Does it defy some of the rules of the romance genre? Yes. But this book is just beyond that need to resurface that conversation. Because at the end of the day, I think that More With You is a must-read for anyone who enjoys reading fiction, whether it's literary fiction, southern fiction, and even romance. I feel like I sound like Andy Rooney right now, like at the end of 60 Minutes. Remember, I probably, oh my God, I'm probably dating my parents probably are the only ones who know, but he was would do a lecturing. And anyway, so look, okay, I'm going to stop rambling, but I am going to turn up my air conditioner because it is time for Erin Spencer to get hot as hell with TSTL. Please enjoy.
I'm excited to talk to you today.
I'm excited to talk to you. Congrats on More With You, it's so wonderful. I love it so much. And yeah, how are you doing? It seems like it must be a whirlwind for you right now.
Release day is September 20th, and you and I are talking about a week before that.
Yeah.
So, it's pretty stressful, to be honest. The beautiful thing is, right now, the only people that have read it or listened to it are bloggers, reviewers, influencers, and the like. And I was just really nervous about what the feedback was going to be about this book. And And so far, I have been blown away by the reviews and the reception. Like blown away. I knew that this story could be a story that people like absolutely loved. And but I was worried that there was going to people when people love something, there's also people that will hate something.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
can't please everyone. I know this, but because it's so personal, um, I was worried that it was going to be the majority of haters.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact so far, it's like just getting 5-star reviews beyond my imagination. So people are really touched by this book and it's staying with people. It's having a lasting impression. So, I mean, it's just amazing. I cried while reading. No, somebody posted a TikTok maybe 2 days ago and they were crying on the TikTok and I cried watching them cry talking about my book. I mean, I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. So yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, I mean, like I was one of those criers. I don't have a TikTok, so I wasn't publicly crying, but this is a personal story to you. What made you have this epic love story? What made you decide to put this story into like words?
You know, I say at the beginning of the book that it took me 20 years to write this book.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say I started really thinking about writing this about, I don't know, 6 years ago, maybe. I work in the book world and I read a lot of romance audiobooks. And I run a production company that specializes in romance audiobooks. So it's in my world all day, every day. So, you start to read enough books and you think like, I should write this. I should write this. And then I hadn't really read anything quite like More With You, but I
Right.
have read a few where I was like, okay, there's some authors that have done something like this. Maybe it's not based on their own life and that's fine, but they've crafted a story that's like love and hope and sadness and not as formulaic as a lot of the romance books out there. There's rules for
Mhm.
romance.
Yeah.
And there's a few of us that have not totally followed those rules.
Mhm.
So once I saw that, it kind of gave me permission to do it too. But
Right. Yeah. Because I was actually talking about this with some romance fans and I was like, it would have done you and the readers a disservice if you kind of went the cookie cutter route and followed the rules, you know?
yes, there was a point where maybe it was about a year ago or so that I thought maybe I need to change this ending.
Mhm.
I need to change this. I just got really nervous about it. And then I thought, no, then it's not my story anymore.
Mhm.
So if I'm going to just be true to the reason that I wrote this, then I need to keep it as it is. Now, about 6 months ago, 5 months ago, I had a group of beta readers, about 10 people, most of which I didn't know them. I found them on Facebook. They were avid romance readers. I asked them if they would be a part of this, reader group, early group. They said yes. And I got some really great feedback, but two things that really stood out to me was one, they wanted more sex scenes, intimate scenes. And I was like, okay, let me write another one. So I added a third one because I'm like, I want to give people what they want
Mhm.
because I'm not giving them everything they want with this
Right.
book.
Mhm.
Although I am, they just don't know it yet. So,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
I'm giving
Mhm.
them all the feels, but in a different way than they're expecting. So I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. Let's put another sex scene. And then there was one person who said, I actually didn't finish your book because I felt like I knew where it was going and I didn't want to read it. And I said, well, at some point, like an hour into the Zoom, I said, actually, you guys don't know me, but this is my life. And they
Mhm.
were what? They're what? Oh my God. You have to tell people that. You have to tell them up front. You have to tell them at the end. Like you need to tell everybody this because this changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, I can do that. I'm not embarrassed about it or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I added the author's note at the beginning, and I added an author sort of afterword at the end. And then I changed a lot of the book after that Zoom meeting, just the sort of the tone, and I changed some scenes, the prologue. But really, those 10 beta readers had a huge influence on this book. Really, like, I'm beyond thankful for them. And I'm glad that I did it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit scary because it's an unfinished book, but it's so you get to a point in a writing process where you're like, I don't know what else to do with this. I'm so in my own head and my own
Mm-hmm.
world. I can't see it anymore. And frankly, I'm like, I can't read this book anymore. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
So it was great to get those 10 people on board.
Absolutely. And, if this is too personal, you also were stuck in your head, but you're also telling your story. So I'm imagine that there must have been different challenges than from like your previous book.
Yeah, totally. It was, I had it plotted right away because I knew how the story went. That was like the easy point. But then it's like, I say at the beginning, this is inspired by my life, not based on my life.
Right.
Because I had to make the villains more villainous, and I had to just elevate
Yeah.
everything to make it more interesting. And I had to embellish things, and I had to add. There's a few characters in the book that have no basis in my life at all. They just needed to be there. But yeah, I mean, even like the mother-in-law, for instance, there's some basis on that character, but I had to like really ramp her up, right?
Sure.
So yeah, everything was, I wasn't I knew how the story was going to go, but I didn't quite know, but at the same time I didn't.
Right. Yeah.
So it sort of made it fun. Like, it really was like true fiction, and if that's a thing.
I say it is now.
Yeah.
Because it does seem interesting. Like you're sitting there, you're writing, and you're just must have been in such a different space of, okay, I'm writing something truthful, but I'm also writing something fictional. What was it like to like balance that out?
You know, it got easier to be honest, though, this is funny. The very beginning, Summer works in a casino as a blackjack dealer. I never did that. I worked in a casino as a showgirl. And I was like, I didn't want to do that because a showgirl is just so extra, right?
Right,
And
yeah.
people are going to have this whole vision about what Summer's going to be like. It's just not down to earth. So I made her a blackjack dealer. I also love playing blackjack. I love gambling. So right away from the very beginning, it was fictionalized in some kind of element. So it made it easy for me to stay in that fictional world, because it really started like at the beginning with a fictional foundation.
Yeah.
Of the character.
Right. Yeah.
So it wasn't too hard, but there's parts that are totally not fictional.
Right. Yeah.
And totally real, and those were the hardest parts to do.
Yeah. And again, if you don't want to delve into this, but I imagine there must have been a catharsis, or what was it like?
Every time I read certain sections, I cried. And you kind of get tired of that.
Yeah.
So I guess, but it's also like the story has been in me for 20 years. So it's different now than it was, even 10 years ago. I will say it was a catharsis, but there's a reason why I read it. Why I wrote it. I feel almost worse for the people that know me that are going to read this book. And especially the people that knew me during that time of my life. It's going to be really, I think that'll be really difficult for them, because I had 2 years of writing this book to process all of this, and they're going to sit down and read it in, whatever, a couple of days. And it's going to be like, boom, like a wave hitting them in the face. So
Yeah.
I have warned my friends that knew me in that time, or my family.
That's great. I think that's good, just to remind them, like,
Yeah.
hey, just so you know, blah, blah. But like, even, obviously this isn't like your close circle, but I think even reminding the readers in the beginning, like, these are issues that could trigger people, not necessarily um, like criminal issues, but also just like personal, I like recently
Right.
read a book and someone did a content warning about there being the death of a dog. And I was like, I appreciate this so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's hard because, like on our first book, The Yes Factor, I wrote with my friend Emma Sable, and there was no trigger warnings of any kind. And somebody wrote in a review, if I would have known there was divorce in this book, I would have never picked it up. And I was like, boy, it's hard to know what people get triggered by these days.
Absolutely.
I didn't really put a trigger warning at the beginning of More With You. I mean, I put like, this is inspired by my life. Enjoy the journey, or thank you for going on the journey with me. But I didn't want to overly label it, because I didn't want people to pick it up, because I do think it's a beautiful book and I'm proud of it. And I'm like, I almost don't want to scare people off of it.
Right. Yeah.
By overly, labeling it with warnings. So I figure the reviews will do that for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And, even like listening to the prologue of it, you get a sense that, oh, we're going down a beautiful road, certainly, but it's going to be different than
Right.
other contemporary romances.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wanted to kind of hint at that at the prologue for sure. I mean, that's what a prologue is for.
Sure. Yeah.
That's its job. Yeah, the other thing I worked really hard on was environment. The book is set in Mississippi on the Gulf Coast. And I mean, I did live there. That environment is very true to me. But I haven't lived there for a really long time. So I did have one friend who lives still in that place, in that actual town. And I asked her to read the book and just make sure, like, the plants and animals and feeling of the space felt right. Because I wanted to really paint that picture. The environment felt like an important character in its own way.
Absolutely. Cause like I really got a sense of the environment, but then I also got a sense of like, this book brings up class issues and, just the feeling isolated, living in a town with, certain people of a financial level. And so it's like, not only did I feel the environment, but I felt like the tension, I guess.
I like that. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, that's true. That was all there. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was part of the dynamic of their relationship and their story. That's a big part of the story.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's it like? So you got your start as an audiobook narrator before becoming a writer.
Yes.
How did you get into audio narration?
A friend of mine from high school narrated 50 Shades of Grey. And like, I was seeing her on Barbara Walters, and I was like, what is this? What? There's audiobook narrators? I never even thought about it. And I was living in LA. I'm an actor, working on, auditioning and having a regular job in the day and all this stuff. And I just thought, I'm going to try this. I've always loved to read. I've been a huge reader my whole life. So I took a workshop and I got into audiobook narrating, and it just was one of those things that took off for me. I mean, granted, it took a couple of years. It took 3 years for me to really get my feet wet and really working full time as a narrator, to the point where I was like really a full-time actor at that point. So 3 years isn't too bad. It's still a hustle like every other kind of creative profession. But it once it took off for me, it really stayed strong and steady. And I've been in it for a little over 10 years now.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
great.
So that's how it started, and it just kept going and going and going, and it has changed over these 10 years. I really started initially doing YA books, and then Penguin Random House has 10 studios here in LA. So I was there a lot doing YA. And eventually I became a freelance director for Penguin Random House. So working with brand new narrators to really seasoned celebrities, which I like doing all of those things. And then produced a few things freelance. And eventually I was like, I'm going to open my own production company. I know all the actors. I know a lot of post-production. I know how to deal with authors. I know the rules of making a great production. So that's what I did. So then I opened my company, One Night Stand Studios. And somehow it really became very romance centric. And I think that's really through word of mouth.
Oh, yeah.
So many romance authors are not traditionally published. And so they were looking to diversify their book income, and audio has grown and grown and grown. So more and more people were getting into audio, and they were wanting to keep their audio rights. So they were coming to me for production. So that's a lot of what we do. We do all genres. I do take on all kinds of books: self-help, nonfiction, YA, mystery thrillers, short story, anthologies. Um, but romance seems to be a thing, which I like. And also I sort of like it because it's a lot of women, and I love working with women.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like, I feel like I've come in relatively late into the audio. I started listening to romance audio a few years ago, but I feel like in the scheme of things, that's relatively late. So, a lot of romance authors have, huge fan bases. And it seems like the same is true for audio narrators. And tell me if that's like the most basic thing I've ever said, because I feel like an old person.
No, that's absolutely true. I mean, I always, when I'm working with authors, especially newer authors, um, on casting their audiobooks, I'm always like, let's try and get you, because you're new and you don't have a huge following yet, or even authors that aren't new, but they're new to audio. Maybe they have 20 books published, but they've never done audio. I'm like, let's get you the biggest name narrator that we can get, because that's going to help blossom your listenership quickly. If they're more established author, they can take more chances on their casting. And sometimes, budgetary reasons, whatever, there's an array of things, or just the right voice. Sometimes it's like, this is the person we need. It doesn't matter, if they're Brad Pitt or not,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, narrators absolutely have fans. They call them one-click narrators,
Okay.
where
Yeah.
it's like, the fan will see that person's name and click it, even if they don't know the author. They've, maybe they don't normally read dark romance or whatever, and they're like, but that person read it, click.
That's awesome. Cause I feel like, it's sometimes it's very hard. Like obviously I have a podcast, so I do read all genres, but when you don't have a podcast, or, when you're used to reading one genre, like that's your
Right.
thing. And so I think it's really cool that like when you see another narrator narrating something in a different genre, it kind of like also kind of expands your interest in what kind of things you like. Because dark romance is like taking over the world right now, it feels like.
Yeah. Yeah. Dark is, you know what? It's so tricky. It's for me as a producer, because I also do most of the casting for my company, just because I know everybody. It's just like easy for me to do not easy. It took me a decade to get good at this, but I can cast is like my superpower. But it's challenging to cast for dark, because I have to get a lot of questions answered from authors. What does dark mean? And also sort of like, what does dark mean to you? But also, what does dark mean to the public in general? Like, tell me, they'll like, an author will be like, this is a light one for me. And I'm like, well, that doesn't tell me anything. Like, just tell me what the general public is going to see or hear, because we've got to know all these triggers.
Yeah.
So yeah, it gets a little bit challenging. And then finding narrators that are willing to do that kind of content can also be challenging.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I have to ask a lot of questions to get that information and deliver it on, so we make sure that it's cast correctly.
Right. Because, it's interesting. I've been like thinking a lot about dark romance lately. And my main kind of go-to genre is romantic suspense. And sometimes it's not considered dark romance, but sometimes when, there's like a serial killer involved and they're like describing the way this person is like killing, it's like, this is way more fucked up than any sort of mafia romance. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it is very relative.
Did you read True North?
I haven't, no.
Yeah, that's a thriller, like romantic thriller. I liked it. I think I have to Google it, but I'm almost positive it's Ava Harrison wrote it.
Okay.
Yeah, it just was released maybe a month ago. It's good. I liked
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
It
cool.
was
Yeah.
different of stuff that I had read of hers before, but I thought it was very good.
Awesome. I'm gonna pick it up. Talk to me about the process of casting audiobooks.
Yeah, so generally I do a lot of Zooms with authors, and once I get to know an author, we don't really have to Zoom that much anymore. Like, I've worked with Devaney Perry so much. I mean, 20 books, maybe 30. I have no idea. Like, I know her style. I know who she likes. I know who she'll like if it's somebody new. So that's easy. But if it's somebody new, I generally like to do a Zoom if they're comfortable with that. If not, we just do a ton of emails. But I also have a sort of an intake form that I send authors, and it asks a lot of questions. Some things very generic, like, when's the manuscript available? When do you want files? When's your release day? But all of that information is extremely important, especially if they're going for a simultaneous release. But then I ask a lot of character questions too, tonal questions, just overall book questions. Once I get that in, I take a look. And then I really try and cast people that I feel like are close to the characters and personality. Like, if it's just like, oh, this is a female character, she plays softball and she's from Wisconsin. I'm like, oh, I know so and so, and she's actually from Wisconsin, and she played softball in high school. I'm definitely going to recommend her. I mean, I always give a few recommendations. I never just say like, this is your person. But when I send casting suggestions to an author, I'll say like, here's so and so. She is like your character because she did this and that and the other. So, in a way, they call that own voices when you're trying to cast, certain characters of different backgrounds. But I try and do that anyway, just with characters. Like, how close can I get the real person to this character and it's the right voice? Because I think when a narrator's really interested in the book and they're really relating to the character they're reading, they're going to do the best job possible. They're going to have more fun with it, and it's going to be a better product.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
That's so interesting, because I always thought like, oh, you would ideally, or like I would think like, oh, the narrator is like matched to a specific subgenre as opposed to a character. And I think that's so interesting that you take in the character itself. I find that fascinating.
Yeah. It's why I do the intake form, because I like to know about the character. Even the blurb tells me a lot of information.
Right.
So I always read the blurb if there's one available. Yeah, I mean, no, I don't necessarily cast, sure, there, especially with dark, when there's certain narrators I know can handle certain triggers. Sure, I do go to those people more for dark stuff. But beyond that, yeah, I really think about the characters more than the genre.
And
Yeah.
ultimately, in the end, the author has the final say. Like the author chooses.
Yes, yes. I give suggestions and then the author chooses. Sometimes the author has requests and I try and abide by them, but it doesn't always work out just on timing. If they're going for simultaneous release and they really have to have so and so, but so and so is not available, there's nothing to be done about it.
Mhm.
Either they push their release because they want that person so bad, or I find them someone else. I
Mhm.
mean, sometimes casting comes down to vocal quality. Like we really need that MC to have this alpha gravelly, deep thing.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, like I know who those guys are. But
Right.
even
Yeah.
within that group of guys, I still try and look at the character and see which guy I would recommend,
Mhm.
the most. So, and I also know the narrators and I know what they like doing and what they don't like doing.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
I mean, they tell me on the side, like, don't suggest me for this kind of stuff, or I don't want to play characters under the age of X.
Mhm.
So I have, I mean, our database and the notes in there, it's extensive.
Well, I mean, I think that's great because you want a narrator who's like, I've just read another book that was like in the zone. They called it the zone. And you want that as a
Yeah,
listener. Yeah.
totally. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I
Oh,
think when the narrator's connected to the material, it's better for everybody.
yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. So okay. I want to learn about the process of a performer and a producer creating this audiobook. So you get the book, you have a reader assigned or you're assigned or casted.
Mhm.
What's the first steps?
So we get the manuscript from the author and I ask them for any pronunciations or specific character notes or anything that they want to send me up front.
Mhm.
All of that is super helpful. For instance, and I give this anecdote all the time, but it's really the best one. The lead character is Elena.
Mhm.
And what if like the narrator looks at it and just like, okay, that's Elena, and they read the whole book with Elena. Well, we deliver it, and then the author's like, what? No, it's Alana. Oh, you didn't tell us that up front. And it was so clear that it was Elena, but no, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was Alana. Maybe it's Elena. I mean,
Mhm.
who knows? So things like that, like most of the time, the narrators are so savvy and they know to ask questions.
Mhm.
I mean, everyone's been doing this long enough to know, like, ask. But sometimes things like that will get by. And if the author does not tell us up front, and it's been said 600 times, it's done.
Right.
Now,
Yeah. Mhm. It's
if it's been
Elena
said
now.
10
Yeah.
times,
Mhm.
okay, fine,
Yeah.
we'll fix it. But yeah, it's things like that. But that's another reason why, like, as a producer, I feel like I'm so effective. I ask so many questions up front. I or someone on my team reviews the manuscript and will flag things just visually. What about this? What about this?
Mhm.
And then the narrators will do a read through, a prep. Not all of them do, but some of them do. And they'll ask any additional questions they have or whatever. And then they'll start recording and they'll do their thing and they deliver files to us, hopefully on time. And then from there, it goes to our post production, who does all the editing, mastering, proofing, QC. Then they find any mistakes that were made by the narrators, send it back to the narrators, and all those mistakes are fixed.
Mhm.
And then final files are delivered to the author, who then may or may not listen to it. I don't know. Um, but when it's new authors to us, I always suggest listen to your audiobook or have a beta listener listen to it. If someone's worked for us for years, they generally don't listen anymore. There's that trust there.
Mhm.
But we, if there's any misreads or something, we'll fix it. Like, oh, I actually live in this town and it's pronounced whatever, or they said love and it was supposed to be loves. I don't know. Some things are so inconsequential that they're nothing.
Right.
So those things are fixed, and then we send files back to the author, and there's their audiobook.
Cool.
Yeah.
It seems like, there are specific, like, I don't want to say rules when narrating, but you know, listening, you'll see like, okay, when a narrator is, doing the dialogue of this character versus this character, sometimes their voice gets higher, sometimes their voice gets lower. Is that like a trick of the trade, or is it just
Yeah,
um
that's expected.
okay.
One thing I feel like is expected, especially in romance, is that female narrators need to have a good male voice,
Yeah.
and male narrators need to have a good female voice. I mean, no one's expecting you to sound like a man or vice versa, but you need to have a good voice for the alternate gender, just to make it more believable or enjoyable. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think we all do voices, but then there's a fine line because it's not animation, it's not a cartoon. So you don't want to go too far with it, because then it starts to sound ridiculous. Because really, books are, I mean, of course, there's fantasy and sci-fi and all these other things, but most of these books are sort of based in life and in humans. And so we don't have to do cartoony characters or make anything too big and crazy. You may have a character that is that person, and that's fine, but generally speaking, the line stays kind of close to home. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of new narrators tend to go a little bit too big, or they don't do enough.
Right. Yeah.
And they stay too just kind of flatlined.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a fine line. I think the best thing that new narrators can do is listen to seasoned narrators in audiobooks. I mean, if you ask a new narrator what audiobooks they're listening to and they say none, then there's probably going to be a problem there.
Right. Yeah. It's so interesting when you say like a woman who can do a male voice, because like sometimes like when I'm listening and the woman does a male voice, I'm like, that is a really sexy voice. Like that, like, you know what I mean? I'm like, my God. Like I'm like so impressed that like they're just like what's it, like the grumble, or you know what I mean? Like just talking in the back of your throat, I think. And
yeah, I think Erin Mallon is sort of known for her good male voice. So there's women out there, it's like they're known for their narration, but they're also known for that too, which I think is super cool.
Oh yeah. And I know that Jacob Morgan is one of your narrators. And we reviewed Priest on this show, and we were talking about like how much he nailed doing a female voice. Like it wasn't like a goofy Saturday Night Live, like blah, 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 just how he did it so whispery,
Yeah, exactly. I know. See, the guys have to do a good job with the women too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing.
So to bring this all together, you have your audiobook experience, you're writing a book. Talk to me about like how your audiobook experience might have influenced your writing experience.
Well, I really, the ultimate edit on a book is saying something out loud.
Right.
So I said everything out loud, even so I also narrated more with you under my pseudonym, which is Ava Erickson. And even when I sat down, which I thought was like the final version of my book, right? And I sat down to narrate it and say the whole thing out loud. I think I narrated it in 3 days or something. I still made changes on the manuscript. That didn't feel right. That didn't come off my tongue as fluidly or as smoothly as I'd like to. And if you can't say it out loud, then there's something wrong with the sentence. I think this is really why, like, audiobook narrators, there's more and more narrators that are writing books. Erin Mallon does. Joe Arden has one that's releasing tomorrow on September 13th. There's Andy Arndt wrote a book. I think it's because like we understand at least what makes a good sentence.
Sure. No, that makes so much sense. Yeah.
Which is just the basic structure of the book. But yeah, I mean, you just say these things out loud and it's right. I will say, you know, as a narrator, there's been some books that I've had real trouble narrating. And it was really because it was like the sentences, I couldn't get through the sentence without making a mistake. And I thought, it's not that the book was bad. It could have just been me and that writer were not a good pair. Like their writing style was not my style. You know, my brain couldn't like wrap my tongue around the words.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, there's some books that are so hard to narrate because the sentences just don't come off your tongue.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are brutal.
Mm-hmm. But I imagine you find a way to work it out
You find a
eventually.
way, but
Yeah.
it's a slog. It is a
Right.
slog because
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I'm like, I feel like I've had to stop after every sentence, you know, or I've had to do every sentence twice because it never came out right. But that doesn't happen very often.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
just it's happened. It happens to everybody in this business.
Well, it seems like for you were able to edit and narrate at the same time in a way.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, even from the very beginning, I would read maybe a chapter out loud or read a paragraph out loud and just sort of make sure, because you're writing da 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 da, and then I'm like, would I actually use that word? Would I actually say that? You know, is that really me? Kind of thing. And
Yeah.
there is so funny. I sent it to a friend of mine, and this was in the early stages, and she said, "What is this word that you use?" I had to look it up. And she's like, "I don't know about that word. It's a great word, but I just didn't even know what it was." And I was like, oh my gosh, I really considered whether I should use that word because I've never said that word in my life. I had, you know, I'd like looked it up and I found this word. I was like, oh my God, that's the perfect word. And I put it in there, but I'd actually never even said it out loud. I didn't even know it existed. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm taking it out. I was trying to do too much. I was trying to be too cute. And no, like, and in fact, that isn't me because I've never said that word. So you're right. And I was glad that somebody said that and called me out on it. So yeah, it was like that. It being a narrator and saying things out loud and being conversational when the dialogue is conversational, but also just when it's just the prose. Does this feel like this is coming off of my mind, off my tongue into the microphone in the right way?
It's a personal experience, you know, having someone whisper into your ear, not whisper, but you know what I mean? It's just like,
Yeah.
it's like you're a one-on-one audience, even though there's a gazillion people buying these books. You are in a way performing for an audience of one, you know?
Absolutely. It's interesting that you know that or that you think about that. I went to a signing event. I go to a lot of signing events just to meet clients, whether new clients or previous, you know, or current clients, whatever. But I was at a signing event, and I was actually there too as Ava Erickson. And this lady came up to me with a little gift, and she gave it to me, and she said, "I just wanted to let you know that I have, you know, a few children that are severely autistic, and I'm with them all day. And then when I take my break, I sit down and I listen to you, and you're like a vacation for me." And I was like, I mean, I cried. I was so touched. And she was like, just thank you. And she gave me this gift. Not that I'm expecting gifts. Anyone that's listening to this, you do not have to bring me anything.
Everyone start shopping. No, I'm kidding.
Right. But I was so touched by it. And I never had really had anyone say something like that that was just like so impactful in that way. And had taken the real time to come find me and see me and like bought this thing. And it was so moving. And I told her, I said, the next book I do, I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to send you a message. I'm going to be thinking about you the whole time because I know you're one person for sure that's going to listen. And I did. And I think about that more and more now when I'm narrating, because it is amazing to connect with fans, and it is amazing to hear listeners or read reviews or to get a private message from someone or meet someone at an event, because it's a very isolated job. One person, me, in a booth behind a one microphone, and no one's listening except for, the editor for sure,
Mhm.
and they're working so much, they're not saying anything, about, they don't even say like good job. It's just like, here, it's done. Here's your
Uh-huh.
mistakes, fix
Mhm.
them. um but as a producer, I connect with so many people all day, every day. So I feel like in the audiobook world, I'm pretty lucky because I'm very social and out there and engaged. But for narrators themselves, they may only be in contact with, a producer, and that's it.
Right.
They don't hear from anybody else. So it's really amazing to hear from fans. And and if the narrator's listening to this, I really encourage them to go to events, in-person events, now that that's back
Mhm.
on the table, hopefully for a while, hopefully forever. Because just connecting in that way is very meaningful, and it does change your perspective on what you do and why you do it.
Absolutely. Like I think like you kind of, when you hear something like that, you kind of get out of your own head a little bit. Like, when people say that to about this podcast, I'm like always thinking like, oh, I got to get the episode up, and do I sound weird, blah blah blah. And then it's like, oh yeah, I'm doing this for other people, and it's making,
Right. Yeah, right. I know it's like isolating, but then when you start to realize that it's not, and that there is an audience, and you start thinking about your audience,
Mhm.
it's pretty cool,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, this has been so great talking to you. And I know that I feel like probably everyone says that to you, but thank you for being so brave and vulnerable and sharing your story. I know it's not your story, but like, using your story as an inspiration for this really, really beautiful, epic love story. I really felt your vulnerability, whether you were intentionally doing it or not.
Yeah, and thank you. I have a few people have said that in reviews, and I I think, coming from a place of truth and coming from a deeply seated, heartfelt place with this book, people are seeing that and they're feeling that, which is amazing. I was hoping they would, but you just don't know. It's so hard to know how books will be received. Um, but people seem to be really, really feeling it. So it's really beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
Mhm.
And when it was suggested by one of those beta readers that I tell people that this was my story, I hadn't thought of that before, which is so funny, right? Like I was writing this book and just thinking like, this is gonna be my inspiration for the story. But then when they said, if you're comfortable telling people this is actually your story, it's going to really change the way that people are going to relate to the story.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, which is interesting to me. I get it, I guess. And I had no qualms saying that it was my story. I hadn't thought of it before. Isn't that funny? I don't know why.
Yeah, it's so interesting because, for me, hearing that it's your real story, it felt like, when you have like a conversation with a new person, but you get like deep and you say stuff that you never thought you would ever tell another person, but you're telling this person, and it kind of like, I feel like I sound like I'm stalking you. But you form a relationship. Like there's this deep,
Yeah.
close, like connection in a way, like the deeper you get,
Right. Right. Yeah, now I guess like, people will know something really intense about me. And especially, in the author's note, where I'm like, my story was actually more intense than
Right.
this.
Mhm.
That was the other thing I have to say was, the real life version was actually like, you know, so insanely traumatic. I couldn't, I thought, God, did I even write this? Like, you can't write it. It's impossible. It was like the reality was so, so devastating. I was like, I couldn't even begin to write this, and I wouldn't. Like, what the true story is too much. And that's why I say at the end, like, I would never do that to readers. Like, nobody wants to go on that journey. But, so I modified it. But even when I was doing the audiobook, I thought, well, I felt like this was like sadder in real life, like, and I thought the book was pretty sad in moments. But it was worse in real life. It was more sad in real life. Like, there's no way I could put my total true emotions on paper, because there's no words to describe.
Absolutely. I mean,
I did my best, and I think I did a pretty good job, but yeah, it's just beyond.
Yeah. I also loved in the end, it was hopeful. That ended on a moment of hope. And I again was telling someone this, and I'm like, there's a closure, there's a hopeful closure, and I think like what a beautiful way to, end a story like that.
Yeah, right. Well, because, this story doesn't end there, and
Right.
because my life didn't end there. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you like move on when you've had this like great love affair and all these things happen? What do you do? So there is hope, and many people have asked me about, is there going to be another book? And I mention it really in the author's note about that. So we'll see. I mean, I haven't plotted, but we'll see how the first book does. If there seems like there's a demand for a second book, and people are like, I want to see what happens with Summer. And, her second chance, then that could possibly happen. We'll see.
That would be great. Because Summer is so lovable. Like, she's like, she's doesn't victimize herself, given that like everything that she's going through. You're just so excited that she has her own house. And I live in Los Angeles, live in an apartment, and I'm like, she has a house that's hers. Like, that's such a fantasy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also, the cost of living in Mississippi is quite a lot less than Los Angeles.
Yeah.
When I lived in Mississippi, it was, like I said, 20 years ago. And I know exactly how much money I made. And I remember exactly how much money my rent was. And it was like, I felt like I was just rich.
Yeah.
I felt like I was rich, and all my friends, we still talk about it, like, because we made just like a weekly salary for being in the shows. And we just felt like we were just on top of the world, and we had all this money. And I look back and I'm like, we really weren't making that much money.
Right. Yeah.
Like, we weren't, but we just felt like we were. It was a great time. It was a beautiful time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, I feel like it's like important. Like, there's feeling rich, and then there's being rich, and like feeling rich is way better,
Right. Exactly. I know. I felt rich, and I had no responsibilities of, what comes along with like true wealth. So it was like the simple things. It was really great. It was really a great time. I kind of miss those days. It feels like a long time ago. It really does. Which was something great about the book, was made me really go deep back into that time. And I think that's why I spent so much time on place and environment, because it really helped me tap into that time in a deep way. And I was able to go back, I was able to feel the pebbles under my feet, and the way the temperature of the water and the air, the weight of the humidity, like all of that really helped me get back in the mindset of myself at that time. And that was pretty cool. That was pretty fun.
It's almost like you were acting in a way, like doing the, kind of like
method acting.
Yeah, it was very like method writing.
I think that's so true. That is very, very true. Yeah, a big part of me would love to do a book signing on the coast, on the Mississippi coast. I haven't had any takers yet. I've contacted a few places, but almost it's just like, I want to do a signing down there just so I can go back. And I still have friends that live there, and just sort of see it and go into that place. it would actually mean a lot to me to do that.
Yeah. Well, I hope you do. And if not, just like get plane tickets, drive out, do it.
Yeah. No, I know. I mean, really, just so I could eat. That's one thing I didn't put in the book. You had to draw a line. So like the food there is so amazing. And if I would have written about all the food, I wrote about the crawfish. So there was,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
but like
yeah.
beyond that, the food is so good. And I probably, then it would have turned into like a foodie book and the story would have gone awry.
Yeah, it would have been like, because like I think with like food books lately, it's like people are just as horny for food as they are for sex. And it's like,
Oh my God. Well, maybe that'll be
thing.
part of Summer's second chance.
I hope so, man.
Maybe they'll just eat their way around New Orleans or something.
Oh, that sounds
which,
amazing.
I
Yeah.
have done, and maybe I'd have to go back and do some research and,
There you go. Hey, it's a business expense, if anything.
Exactly.
Well, Erin, thank you so much again for appearing on the show. Can you remind us when the book comes out and where we can find you on the social media, etc.?
Sure. So More With You will be released on September 20th of this year, 2022. It'll be in Kindle Unlimited, but also ebook, paperback, and audio. Audio is narrated by Zachary Weber and Ava Erickson. And you can find me on social media at Erin Spencer Author.
Very cool. Awesome.
Yeah. So, and if anybody reads it, please, write a review. Reviews mean the world to authors. It's just, it's everything. So, I just want to thank everybody for going on the journey with me. It's really special.
Too Stupid to Live is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. For more podcasts you'll love, visit frolic.media/podcasts. Thank you so much for listening and have a great rest of your day.